What's up, guys? Sub-Zero here, and there is some more TFT griefing drama going on. So I thought I had to do a video about this. It's always interesting to talk about. Look how juicy this one is. There are all of these screenshots, Twitter posts up here, so much discourse about it. You guys, I know, enjoy saying your piece about this, talking about it in the comments down below, and generally it's fun to hear what you guys say. I say my piece here, you guys say your piece. The one thing I will say is that this is a quite contentious topic. I would say even more contentious than the previous briefing controversy that happened before. So just please, people, be respectful. If you are disrespectful, I will not hesitate to ban you from the comments of my videos for literally forever. Be respectful. We can talk about this in a productive way about what we think is good for TFT, bad for TFT, what people should and shouldn't do in the sense of competitive integrity without going crazy and saying, this person's a bad person for doing this, etc., etc. So where this all took place is this tournament, the SEA Regional Finals, which happened just a few days ago. And the central sort of thing that's at play here is that this is a tournament with people from multiple regions. So there are 22 players from Vietnam in this tournament, and then people like Chaos, Reverie, Foeman, who are coming from other regions like Taiwan, Thailand. So it's a multi-region tournament, almost like, Worlds is, but it's very, very biased towards, like the number of players at least, is biased towards Vietnamese players. There's 22 out of 32 players are from Vietnam. It's a huge percentage of the players. And I don't actually have an issue with this. It's the same where, like, at Worlds, China gets 6 representatives, other regions get less. China has the biggest player base. A lot of the money that goes into TFT is from China, so we should give, just as a portion of the player base, and just to, sort of, what's good for Riot Games is good for TFT's future. Allow a lot of people from China to compete. I think that's pretty reasonable. And so I think that's fine here. Vietnamese, there's a ton of Vietnamese TFT players, so I think it's completely reasonable for there to be a large number of Vietnamese players in the qualifiers. What starts to get a little bit weird, though, is that this is a tournament where top 8 get paid out, but the payouts to the bottom 16 players, that's not math, the bottom 24 players is these transfers to RP, and it's basically the same for, like, 32nd place, $15 versus 9th place, $25 in RP. Kind of no diff. And that does sometimes create an incentive for players to say, you know what, there is literally no difference between me going 17th place and me going 32nd place. Maybe I'm not going to play my best TFT. Maybe I might even do some stuff that is a little bit untoward. So first screenshot I'll show you guys is this screenshot from a Vietnamese player, and they're saying something in Vietnamese. I don't speak Vietnamese, but people have translated this and talked about the definition of this, and it's this. So they're saying basically hug the other two players, and hug is an interesting translation of this, but it can be basically directly translated to say we should grief these other two players. And the other two players they're referring to are the two non-Vietnamese players in the lobby. Kind of sus. That's just one person saying that, for sure. So, like, maybe that person just needs a stern talking to, but we'll see. And now we actually have some screenshots from in the game themselves. So this is a game, this is a player who is playing Riven Reroll, and he's holding 2 Vexes on his bench, which, is ostensibly to grief the Executioner player. I think something like this is completely fine. People do this all the time in regular TFT. And, when I made my last video, a lot of people talked about, like, well, you can't, like, this is a part of the game, right? Griefing other players is a part of the game. You should be able to do this, especially in a situation where it benefits yourself. And I think that is completely reasonable. Sometimes in TFT, maybe this person's already at 50 gold. They can just hold these 2 Vexes on their bench literally for free, and all it does is benefit them. That's just good TFT. There is nothing wrong with that. I think this is not an egregious example. This might actually be an example that makes sense, for them to grief other players. So there's nothing wrong with that. The problem is we start to get into some more egregious examples. So, for example, this is a player where there's a center reroll player in the lobby. This person is, just playing like a strong country board, not necessarily playing country reroll, but, who knows. And this is a situation where at 3-6, they are holding on to 2 Senates here. It looks like maybe they end up playing Katarina reroll here. They have the JG already. This is a situation where 3-6, they're holding on to 2 Sennas here. They could sell these 2 Sennas to make 40 gold. They don't really need to hold the Samira if they're, going to play into Katarina reroll, which certainly looks like the case. So they could sell these 2, make 40 gold. So I think a lot of time in TFT, when you're in a spot like this, it doesn't make sense to actually hold on to these Sennas, even if it allows you to grief another player, because you're hurting your own econ. 1 point of econ is not worth the small chance of griefing one other player who, like, honestly, might not even be an issue depending on what their position is. So this is a spot where it certainly looks quite suspicious holding on to these 2 Sennas. What adds the suspicion is the second screenshot. It is 5-1. They've hit their Katarina 3, and they are still holding on to these 2 Sennas here. And there's actually even more to add on to this, is that they are 1 HP in this situation, and they have Z1, they have Echo paired on bench, which they can potentially, like, think about getting in later. They have, like, Gnar paired right here. Like, they still have a lot of stuff left to hit in this position, and they are holding on to this Senna pair at 1 HP. This, I would say, is just completely egregious. And you can see up here, Chaos, who is the non-Vietnamese player, ends up actually hitting Senna here, so they probably roll it after. But holding these Sennas up till 5-1 can almost be seen as just, like, objectively a bad play, a griefing play, where, they're trying to hit another player. And the fact that that other player happens to be one of the non-Vietnamese players adds even more suspicion to it. Let's look at a few more screenshots. This is another situation where a player is playing, like, Punk reroll. They've hit Jinx 3. Also IE on Jinx. I mean, maybe I don't know what to say. But look at their bench. They have Vex on their board because they're looking to get, like, Twitch in later, though Vex, like, really doesn't do that much on their board right now. But they're holding on to another Vex, which, I mean, at level 6, this amount of HP, this amount of gold, there's no way you're hitting Vex 3. And they're also holding on to a Samira, an Urgot, and an Akali. So they're denying, look at their gold, by the way, 0 gold. They're denying their own ability to make 10 gold here, or to potentially roll for a Senna 3, because they're 2 off of Senna 3. They're actually 1 off Senna 3 in this situation, and potentially Pantheon 3. They're denying themselves the ability to hit here and save their own game to potentially grief these Executioner units. That certainly seems like target griefing. That certainly seems like an egregious example. Like, this is one of the worst examples that I saw from all of the screenshots of something that really, really looks like target griefing, like something that I think is not okay. And this is the final example. This is one where I haven't had a chance to, like, go through the entire VOD, but this player is playing Senna reroll, and he has 7 Katarinas on his bench. This is another situation where it's almost never optimal to be holding this many of a unit on your bench. You can hold 2 Katarinas and it'll decrease the chance of the Katarina player from hitting. You could even maybe hold 3 Katarinas if you're really afraid of that player hitting. 7 Katarinas, especially when you're not making 20 gold, you're stuck on level 6 at 4-2 with this amount of gold just sitting on your bench, is almost never optimal. This is almost always an incorrect play. And the fact of the matter is that this, I mean, it just looks insanely suspicious from a potential griefing perspective. Do I have anything? Yeah, I have one more sort of, like, thing to show, but I will, now that we've gone through all the examples, let's, I'm going to skip a little bit into the dish soap VOD because I'm not going to be able to take that long. I've already talked for 8 minutes about this kind of stuff. But that's basically the sort of, like, summary of a lot of the drama stuff. The other thing that I had in there that brings me into my next point, actually, is in my previous video where I talked about this stuff, we talked about Sphinx, the player who target griefed another player because he got frustrated that they hurt his Heartsteel cash out. That was an egregious example of target griefing because he straight up basically said out loud, I'm going to target grief this player. And it got a little bit weird because he actually ended up outplacing the player that he target griefed, but it was still very, very obvious that he was target griefing that player. What ended up actually happening to that player is that he got he got a penalty, actually. Let me read out what he had. I had it on the other monitor, but I don't want to have to go through the monitor again. But he basically received a 1 tournament ban in North America. So he said, upstream connect error or disconnect reset before headers, reset reason connection failure. And, like, I think that really says it all, honestly. I think, yeah, that's, I mean, what else is there to say? Okay, fine. I'll pull up his tweet back over here because I had it all the way over here, and, like, I wasted my life. I ended up receiving A 1 tournament ban for set 11 first cup, which I think is totally fair based off my actions in the Heartsteel Cup. I hope to represent myself better in future sets, and good luck to everyone in regionals this set. So, not only did he receive a ban, but he basically said, like, I think this is fair. I straight up said I was going to grief someone. I should receive a penalty for this, and he did. It's a 1 tournament ban. I think that's a very, very reasonable ban. It still allows him to, there are probably going to be 3 cups next set, so he gets banned from 1. He can play the next 2 if he qualifies for them. I think that is completely fine, and I think a very reasonable ban. And if I don't know if you guys disagree with that, you can watch my last video about what I said about this kind of stuff, where I think I think it is good for TFT for a ban to happen, not to be like banned for life from TFT, because it's, just one situation where he made a mistake. But I do think that it does make sense when people harm the competitive integrity of TFT by making it, like, sort of targeting other players and making it harder for them to perform. I think it is fair for those players to receive penalties. And that brings me into what is the solution in this situation with the SEA Cup. I think the first very obvious thing is that, yes, like, there should be, these players who did it really, really egregiously should be penalized. And I think, especially for players who did this multiple times, who held units from non-Vietnamese players multiple times, I think that is, like, very, very easy to see. Like, those players should, receive a significant penalty, whether that's, being banned from a cup or some other thing. I think that is completely reasonable, because it does harm the competitive integrity from the game. And it's also really, really rough. Like, multiple people who have played in these qualifiers, where non-Vietnamese players, have come out and said, it's rough playing in these qualifiers when, maybe you're one of, 8 or 10 non-Vietnamese players, and you're being griefed all throughout the cup by people who, like, don't want you to succeed. That is a very difficult situation to be in. I feel a sneeze coming on, but I don't have it yet. It's a very difficult situation to be in as a player, and just, like, imagine every single game, especially in a meta like this where it's so reroll centric, where every game you want to play reroll, you are, you look around the lobby and, oh, this player's holding 2 Sennas, this player's holding 2 Sennas, this player's holding 2 Sennas. It becomes almost impossible to play the game when, especially in this kind of meta where you kind of have to play reroll. So I think that's really bad for the competitive integrity for TFT. It's actually kind of hilarious that, remember my last video where I was like, what we really don't want for TFT is, like, the dystopian future where there's, like, there's the Joe Bookmark fans and the Kai fans, and the Joe Bookmark fans are griefing the Kai fans because they don't like them. I mean, that's basically exactly what happened here, where there's like, all these Vietnamese players who want the other Vietnamese players to succeed, I would have to imagine is the thinking here. And so they're making it harder for the non-Vietnamese players to pop off. That's really bad for TFT. So I do think these players should receive penalties. Obviously, these are just screenshots. I think the tournament organizers can definitely go through all of the footage they have. A lot of these players streamed, or there was main broadcast. So there's a lot of footage of these games. So it's very reasonable for organizers to go through a ton of VODs and figure out who did this most egregiously. Because, like I said, there is a line, but it's actually not that hard of a line to see. If a player is griefing other players and it's to their own benefit, I've talked about this before, I think that's completely reasonable. Like I was talking about that first example, if you're 50 gold and you hold 2 Vexes, I mean, that's just TFT. You are playing good TFT. But if you're hurting your own game, that person who is on 1 HP, he's holding on to the ledge, about to fall off, and your alternative is sell 2 Sennas and maybe hit something and live, but they say, you know what, I'm just gonna let go, hold the 2 Sennas and fall down into the canyon with my 2 Sennas. That's bad. That is egregiously bad. And anyone at this level of competition knows that, and I don't think there's any justification to say, oh, well, maybe they didn't know, maybe they just wanted to sit at 0 gold. Like that's unjustifiable gameplay. Even if they want to sit at 0 gold, they could have sold the Sennas and rolled, especially in those situations where, like, a player's about to die. So I think when you see something really, really egregious like that, it is reasonable to take action against those players and give them a penalty. The other thing I want to say, as far as solutions goes, along with that first screenshot that I showed, the prize pool disparity between 9th place and 32nd place is insane. And I do think in these type of cups, we need to prioritize keeping people in it for as long as possible, or just giving them the most incentive to play their best. I think NA is actually a region that does this really, really well, where they have the qualifier point system, where even if you're potentially eliminated from a cup, getting a better placement in that cup gives you more qualifier points, which allows you to have a higher chance of qualifying to something like regionals. Used to be like, actually, I don't think mid-set even cared about qualifier points, but yeah, to like regionals at the end of the set. So, you know, like if you know that, like if you go 8th your first 2 games and you're like, okay, there's a pretty low chance of me making it to the final lobby, to making it out of, you know, like day 3 of a cup, you can still say, I'm going to play my hardest, because the difference from going like 33rd place and getting eliminated versus 64th place is, you know, like 20 qualifier points. I don't know the exact number. And those 20 qualifier points might be the difference between me making regionals and me not making regionals. So even though there's not money on the line, there's qualifier points which sort of like convert into money, because going to regionals, you know, you might have a chance of winning the whole thing and making $10,000, which $10,000, a good amount of money. I was co-streaming with Kai the other day, and Raptor, Demasian Raptor was like, oh, who cares about 10K? And Kai was like, I care about 10K. I'll take 10K. And I think most people would agree with that. So I think that's good. I think at a cup like this, where that prize pool, there's such a disparity, I think it does make sense to just carve out a little bit to make it more reasonable. You can still say like the bottom 8, you know, get garbage money in RP. But the fact of the matter is that the difference between 9th place and 32nd place is $10 in RP. I mean, you could at least get something from Riot to say 9th place is, you know, like $200 in RP, and last place is $10 in RP. Like, come on, like, it's RP, right? Like, surely we could do better than that and make the spread out of the prize pool at least matter a bit more. So these players are saying, well, you know, I could grief, I guess, but it doesn't, like, I want to play for like literal money. I mean, people like money. So I think that's I would say those are the 2 immediate sort of causes, not cause for action. Like action items? I don't know what the word I'm thinking of is. But the 2 very significant like things that could easily be done that would make this much better is, you know, like ban people who target grief, like actually look at the VODs, see the people who were egregiously target griefing and ban them, and make it incentivized for players to actually play out the entire tournament. Because if you are mathematically eliminated, it's hard in a game like TFT. This is exactly what happened with Sphinx in his situation, where he was mathematically eliminated. He has no reason, because like if in Sphinx's position, if he could have gone first and like qualified, I actually like seriously doubt that he would have target griefed. But he knew that he was mathematically eliminated, so he said, you know what, I'm just gonna grief, because like, who cares? Like, my placement in this game doesn't matter. If even there was a difference, say like if Sphinx goes 8th that game, he gets like $100, whereas if he goes first that game, he gets like $500 or something. I mean, that's like a extreme money example. We don't have that much money in TFT, but even something like that, you know, 100 versus $200, he could say like, okay, I'm playing for money. I'm not going to grief. And like I said, the qualifier points thing is good, but it's a little bit hard, because that was the last cup of the set. You know, if you don't have qualifier points, it doesn't matter. I think those are the easy. I keep wanting to say some weird word that doesn't exist, like call to action, but that's not what I'm talking about either. Those are, I would say, the 2 like easy things that you could do that would make this happen much less frequently. And I still think it's bad for TFT. I'm sure there will be some people in the comments who are going to say, it's fine, you know, like people should be allowed to grief other people. Like, that is an aspect of TFT. But I really think, like, if that is your take, you should really put yourself in the shoes of someone who, if you're going into this tournament, every single game you are being target griefed. That is a really tough situation to play in. And, you know, like, my heart goes out to those players who ended up in that situation where every single game you have people holding your units. Like, the game ceases to become fun at that point, right? Like, you know that you're going in with it, you've got the Rock Lee training weights on, but you can't even take them off and then go, and then, you know, like, still lose the fight anyway. Like, you have these training weights on, but there's no way of taking them off. That's just not fun. It's not fun for those players. It's not fun, I would say, for the other players who are target griefing, because then, you know, you don't get to say, oh, like, our players were strongest, you know, like at Worlds, like here's sort of an example I'm thinking of. Like, we go to Worlds, North America goes to Worlds, and say like 10 out of the 32 were from North America. Like say Replay wins Worlds, but then like we realized that Replay only really won Worlds because like Soju was in his lobby and Soju like hard griefed Hwanmei or something. That would feel like a cheap win for me personally. Like I would not feel good about saying like, woo, like NA is the best, because like we didn't even get like a real win, because we had, you know, our thumb on the scale, which is people made fun of me for saying, I was in call yesterday, people made fun of me for saying that's not a real, that is a real, like Google it, thumb on the scale. I'm gonna Google it right now, thumb on the scale. Like that's an allusion to a butcher who cheats customers by surreptitiously using a thumb to apply extra pressure on the scale when weighing meat to calculate the price of ... Like it's real, man, it's real. But yeah, like having your thumb on the scale, you know, like saying that like, oh, we'll just give NA like a better chance. Like that is also like a cheap victory. In my mind, I would not feel good about that kind of a victory where like we have people, you know, ruining competitive integrity just to make our, you know, region do better. I don't think that's, I mean, I definitely don't think it's good for TFT. And like, I wouldn't even, if I would feel like that's a cheap victory, and I would not feel satisfied with that kind of victory. So yeah, that's basically my entire take on it. Would love to hear you guys' thoughts. You know, nice to have a little drama like this at the end of the set where like, you know, most people don't care too much about the games that I would say, ooh, I'm going to do a YouTube poll. I'm going to do a YouTube community poll and ask you guys what you think about the set, because I sometimes forget to do it, but I remembered just now to do it. So I'm going to do a community poll. You can probably see it on the community tab in my YouTube or something, but I just remembered that. And I really like doing that stuff to get like what do you guys think of the set? Like it's on a 1 to 5 scale. Like 1 is like the set is terrible, 5 is like the set is awesome. And I've done them for a lot of previous sets. And I'm really curious to see what you guys think about it. But yeah, I mean, we have the last 2 fights between Degree and Dish Soap, but I'm gonna spoil it for you. Like Degree, like it was not even close, but Dish Soap still wins the tournament, which I will do a VOD review of. I think I'm gonna do 2 videos today because I didn't. Oh, here, let's watch the last fight. I think I'm gonna do 2 videos today because I didn't post the last couple of days because I was just like being lazy and like stuff. So I'll post a couple of videos today to you know, make you guys feel better. In any case, let me know what you guys think about all this stuff. Go vote in the poll that I'm gonna put up like as I upload this video. And yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.